Hey guys, it's Ms. Kimmick. In this video, I'm going to review how to do contextualization. And this skill and my how-to applies to any DBQ or LEQ in any of the AP World, in any of the AP histories, AP World, US, or Euro. And the whole point of contextualization is to demonstrate that you as a student understand the bigger picture, the broader context from which the topic of the essay relates into. Let's first look at the rubric. And here I have the rubric explicitly from College Board. It describes a broader historical context relevant to the prompt. To earn this point, the response must relate the topic of the prompt to broader historical events, developments, or processes that occur before, during, or continue after the time frame of the question. This point is not merely awarded for a phrase or reference. So I've bolded two important points: before, during, or after. And for me, the easiest way for students to earn the point is to think about what led to or what caused the topic of the prompt. So that's before, or during, what's happening at the same time as the topic of the prompt. The other key point to really understand here is that the point is not awarded merely for a phrase or a reference. It must be explained. The final point is that contextualization best belongs in the introductory paragraphs or at the beginning portion of your essay. You need to do three things. Give the broader topic. So ask yourself, what happened just before the topic of the essay, or what's happening at the same time? You're not quite sure how to start? During the, give a time frame, comma, this was occurring. Or as the United States was undergoing progressivism, this too was also occurring simultaneously. Then you need to provide evidence to support. So you need to give 1 to 2 good pieces of specific historical evidence to detail the broader topic you identified. Flesh out what your G was. So you need to be specific here, like the Stamp Act, the Agricultural Adjustment and Administration, the Moorland Grant Act. You can't say the New Deal. It's too broad, and you want to be more specific. And of course, it must be historically accurate. L stands for link, and that is linking the broader context to the topic of the essay. This most likely requires just one sentence that connects your broader topic, let's say the New Deal, to World War II, the topic of the essay. Just a sentence. There are two ways to think about contextualization. The first way is to think about before the essay topic, and the second way is occurring simultaneously. So let's look at a prompt here. Evaluate the extent to which commercial exchange systems such as mercantilism fostered change in the British North American economy from the period 1660 to 1775. So how did mercantilism cause change in the economy in the colonies? And notice the time period, it's before the American Revolution. So if you're thinking about what led to the prompt of the time period, think about what's happening before 1660. And generally, we see an increased competition among European countries. The Spanish Armada occurs in 1588. The 30 Years' War occurs from 1618 till 1648, right? And both of those examples, you see European nations, England and Spain, for example, fighting for European supremacy, and that kind of bleeds into wanting economic supremacy as well, which is why they develop mercantilism, right, and economic policy. So what I've done here is GEL, broader topic, evidence to support, and in parentheses, I've kind of thought through what my explanation is there. If you're thinking about what occurs simultaneously, ask yourself this question: what was happening at the same time of the prompt? It's helpful if you think thematically. So in this case, the prompt is mainly about the economy. So I can't use the economy as an example, but I can think about politics, social, and in this case, I thought of religion. The First Great Awakening occurs in the 1720s, 30s, and 40s, and that's occurring the same time period as the prompt. So I have provided specific evidence with two famous preachers, Jonathan Edwards and George Whitefield, and they foster new religious movements such as the Baptists and the Methodists. And my link down here, I'm just kind of brainstorming, it demonstrates a social cultural change that's going to affect the colonies, just as mercantilism, in my thesis, I would argue that mercantilism will cause much economic change in the colonies as well. So those are two ways to think about contextualization. Let's look at some real examples. So here we have the 2019 DBQ on progressivism. Evaluate the extent to which the progressive movement fostered political change in the United States from 1890 to 1920. Possible examples I have over on the right-hand side of the screen. These are all examples that I just pulled from College Board. It's pretty easy to come up with an example. So large-scale immigration, you could talk about the shift from Western and Northern Europe to Southern and Eastern Europe with Greeks, Italians, and Slavs, right? That's specific evidence to pull from. The first example mentions a couple of broad topics. They probably could have just stopped at one, but they mentioned urbanization, immigration, and industrialization. But notice the next two sentences provide specific evidence, is a good contextualization. And if you look at my color coding scheme, the first sentence is the broader topic, then they provide evidence to support, and then they link it, right? The amount and quality of work of America began to highlight deficiencies beyond the workforce, thus the progressive movement begins, right? They're kind of linking it together. The second example, their broader topic is the Gilded Age. They provide really good evidence here by talking about Standard Oil and social Darwinism. Then their link, which is a little vague, but it does work. This helped lead to the progressive movement. So if you look at the color coding system, gel is right in there. Here is the 2017 U.S. History DBQ example. Evaluate the extent of change in ideas about American independence from 1763 to 1783. On the right-hand side, I have a list of possible broader topics. You also could have talked about experiences American Indians and enslaved Africans experienced during the war. Now that's something that occurs at the same time as the ideas about independence are evolving in the colonies. This is a wonderful example of contextualization. They have great evidence. They specifically and clearly know John Locke's natural law and what it means. Notice they don't just mention it, they explain what the natural law is. And then their link is very clear. The larger ideas and themes of the Enlightenment fueled the change in ideas about American independence. It's a great link and transition. The second example starts out really well. They too mention the Enlightenment. Notice that they're actually using documents to support. So all of this in the middle is not evidence that's going to work. It's a little vague, and they're citing documents. You don't cite documents in contextualization. I hope that was helpful in reviewing ideas about contextualization, and good luck on the exam in May.